This week on the GameCritics.com podcast, you've got questions, we've got answers. It's our first ever listener feedback show. Plus, quick hits on A Kingdom of Keflings and the new Xbox experience. Brace yourself, it's the GameCritics.com podcast, and it starts right now. It is the GameCritics.com podcast for the week of November 23rd, 2008, Thanksgiving week. And what are we thankful for? Why, you. We're thankful for you, our faithful listeners, and that's why we're devoting the bulk of today's show to answering the many questions you've posted and emailed. Also, we're thankful for gravy. Ad-libbing. Let's say hello to our panel. It's not just any panel, by the way. This is the original cast of the GameCritics.com podcast, reunited because it feels so good. First up, we have Game Critics founder Chi Kong Lu. Chi, how are you, sir?
Good, Tim. How's it going, man? I'm happy to be here. Still playing Fallout 3, and excited to see Netflix finally on Xbox Live Experience.
And we're going to talk a lot about the Xbox Live experience. Netflix seems to be extremely popular. Have you watched anything yet?
Just a couple of old episodes of Voltron.
Probably the best use of a Netflix account, I would think.
It's one of the few things that are available on it, actually. Yeah.
Well, back from a week off, and frankly, it was the most difficult week of my life. It's senior critic Brad Gallaway. Hey, Brad.
Hey, Tim. Hey, guys. Good to be back. Sorry I had to skip out last week. I was actually waiting in line to buy tickets to Twilight, and I just got them today, so I'm back.
Wow. You should ask for your money back.
Have you seen Twilight yet? Have either of you seen it?
Yeah.
No.
Not good.
Not good. Well, if anyone would know, it is the horror geek himself, Mike Bracken. Mike, good to have you back again this week.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here with my esteemed colleagues and you, our fine host. Not much happening this week. A little more World of Warcraft action, and I've been juggling that with some Gears of War 2, but very little Gears of War 2.
It's all about the World of Warcraft. What level are you up to now?
I'm almost 77.
So you're almost flying. You've almost got the flying mount.
Yeah, I almost got the flying mount back, so really looking forward to that. I had forgotten how much riding the horse around Azeroth sucks, so it'd be nice to fly again.
It will be. I'm at 74 for the folks at home keeping track, and I can't get to 77 fast enough. Well, as we said before, we are going to do listener questions this week, and we'll do that in just a bit. But first, it has been a big week in Xbox 360ville. Some might describe it as an entirely new experience, so I thought we'd talk about that a bit in this week's Quick Hits.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I'm going to start that segment off, but before we begin, I just wanted to throw out a little correction. From a show we did 2 weeks ago, I was doing Quick Hits on Roto-Hex, art-style Roto-Hex for the Wii, and I had actually misstated the case. In that segment, I said it was single-player only, but we had a listener write in and tell me that there's actually a versus mode and also a co-op mode. In addition, there are also 8 levels instead of 6, so I was, not doing very much fact-checking that week. Mea culpa. At the time that we did the hits, I hadn't finished the game, and I hadn't played it, I think, in 2 days, so I deeply apologize to the people behind Roto-Hex and Nintendo. It is a really good game, and my impressions were positive anyway, so sorry about that. So, moving on to the new Xbox experience. It just came out a little while ago, and it is a forcible upgrade, I guess, if you want to call it that. So everybody's going to be on it sooner rather than later, I'm sure. As far as my personal take on it, for me it was kind of a non-event, really. A lot of flash, a lot of hype. I'm not really quite sure what I expected, I suppose, but after trying it out, I found it to be Not really more useful or functional than the old Blade system. I mean, it's pretty, but in terms of what I want from functionality out of a console, I just like to get straight to things, to the point, not a lot of flash, not a lot of extraneous content. I just want lists of things. I want to get to things right away. I want to know, where the content is that I want, and I just want to just do it. So, it's not like I hate it, but it doesn't really do a lot for me. It's just a lot of flash. Besides that, I don't have a Netflix account right now, and I don't really watch any movies on the 360, so that functionality isn't a big draw for me. I don't know. I'm just kind of meh on the whole thing.
I really felt similarly to Brad as far as it goes. I am more interested in the Netflix thing. I'm not, aside when I'm not writing at Game Critics, I write film reviews for a lot of different places. So I do watch a lot of movies and a lot of Netflix. So that's pretty cool, being able to stream. Except it's the same thing as like being able to stream on your computer. There's only so many things available. It's not like you can just go in and watch anything that Netflix has to offer. But the rest of it is really kind of much ado about nothing as far as I'm concerned. I know people were really excited about these new avatars, and I was like totally not blown away by them. There aren't enough options to customize your character at this point, and I just can't shake the feeling that there will be more later, and we'll all be paying 99 cents a pop for different hairstyles and clothes and things like that. And I didn't care for avatars when they were on the Wii. I don't care for them now. It's not an important part of my experience or anything like that. As far as the rest of it goes, though, it's pretty. It looks nice, but it's not something. I like the Blade system. I didn't need to change. So, and for me personally, I'm kind of a gaming dinosaur in that I don't really download a lot of demos or do much on Xbox Live to begin with. So I just put games in my Xbox and play them, so this doesn't really do anything to make that experience better for me, so it's sort of a non-event.
I'm actually really kind of surprised by your reactions. Actually, I loved it. I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty good all around. Yeah, it is a lot prettier. I mean, let me first talk about the avatars. I mean, I'm not like a huge Avatar fan either, but the one good thing that they did about it, and it is simple, and everyone seems to have done it, so I think the effect's going to show up later when they have games that sort of exploit it, and where it works out with the Wii is like when you play, bowling and some of the Wii sports, and your family members have Mii characters, and then when you're playing against them, or even when you're playing solo, the Miis will show up, and that's kind of a neat thing. It's a pretty harmless thing. Not a deal breaker one way or the other. But again, they did it pretty well. I think making it simple is a part of that, and I actually hope they don't add too many features, because sort of like when you were playing Fallout 3. There's so many options there that I sort of just threw my hands up and just took one of the default options and just went ahead. As far as the interface goes, I really like it a lot, actually, because the old interface, it really was starting to show its age. There was too much content, and the lists was all text, and you'd have to scroll down to a page, and then you'd have to wait for that to load, and it wasn't.
So instead of scrolling down now, you scroll to the side. Is that the improvement? You go horizontal instead of vertical?
Well, yeah, I think you still see more. I get the impression I see more with as far as the demos go, and it does help with sort of with the game covers that they're using for the graphics now. In some games, I'm not even sure what they are, and having the cover helps. And when you click through on it, one thing I really like the way they've expanded it. Is there's just more content for you to look at, whereas they had that little tiny window on the right side in the old version, and the text would sort of start scrolling if you held it there for 5 seconds, and I thought that was really not really conducive to learning about it. I felt like you had to just go online to Xbox.com to learn about the stuff and get the proper screenshots, but they've sort of taken care of that now. Now it's sort of broken out into different pages that you can scroll through quickly. The preview screenshots are like full size, HD, which I think is great.
And just to expand on that, every piece of information and every bit of available content for a game is now in one place, and I like that quite a bit. I don't have to jump to 3 different places to see 3 different pieces of information about a particular game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but I kind of feel like I'm kind of drowning in stuff now. I feel like it's not as clear to me. Like, I see all these different, titles scrolling by, and I mean, maybe I'm just a dinosaur like Mike or whatever, but it's like I don't need all that flash. Like, I'm just like, let me at it. I know what I want. I know how to navigate this stuff. And, when I upgraded my wife's 360, and she's like, oh, hey, honey, can you change my theme for me? Actually, no, I can't, because they've moved it, and I don't know where it is, and I look like a total jackass in front of my wife for, 7 minutes while I searched through the new menus, which was something I didn't appreciate.
I wish I only looked like a jackass for reasons like that in front of my wife instead of all the other ones.
Well, to change the theme, guys, you got to hit the live button, and yeah, it is.
I did figure it out. I want people to know I'm not retarded. It just took me a little while because they moved it.
I think they actually.
It just feels like it feels sloppy to me now. It feels messy. It doesn't feel like as orderly as it used to. So maybe that's my anal retentive side coming through.
I know what you mean, Brad. But where it kind of works out is if you're sort of logging in, you want to explore what's there. You want to see what the new demos are, and you're kind of just curious as to what the latest videos are about. And I think it does better in that regard. If you kind of want it just straight up, and you can sort of get a full version of the old Blades. I know you think that that's still not quite enough because it still goes back to the old system, but it's still there, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how some people would like it. I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on it, but one thing that I used to always do was click this to see what's new in the marketplace, and it would bring you to that screen where every single thing that was new that week would be right there. And now I feel like I have to go to these different levels of the menu to see what's new and all that. And
I think if
I don't know. I mean, I wish.
If you get the right horizontal, you know what I mean? It's like you got to go through all the verticals, and then once you're on that horizontal line, it's the same effect.
Yeah.
But it's a little, it's a little bit airy and a little less structured feeling in that way. But I think you'll get used to it eventually. Yeah.
Or maybe I'll just keep hating it. I mean, I could do that too.
Well, you make a good point. We've only been using it for 3 days now, and I think over time we'll probably just get used to it. But has anyone tried the hard drive installation for any games yet?
I haven't tried it.
I tried it for Fallout 3. The installation, it's one click and took about 5 minutes to install. The only problem is I have a 20 gig drive, and now I'm down to about 3 gigs of space. But since I only play one game at a time, it worked pretty well for me. And I noticed, maybe on the loading screens, 3 or 4 seconds shaved off. Not a big deal, but for me the big benefit is I don't have to listen to the Xbox 360 whirring and spinning and blowing. I can enjoy Fallout in relative silence.
And let me go back to the Netflix feature, because for people that like to stream media from their computers and their photos and videos, and I'm really big into that, I think the Netflix thing is absolutely huge, and they've done a really good job with that. When I logged into it, I was thinking that you would have to I'd have to remember my username and password, and you don't even have to do that. They give you a code from the Xbox, and then you log on to the PC, and then from there you just enter in that code, and then you're done. And then your instant playlist automatically appears right onto the Xbox, and I thought that was just super cool. Granted, the list is very minimal. The instant play list is already a very select list, and the ones that make it onto Xbox is even slimmer than the one that's on the PC. But I'm sure they'll work out those kinks eventually. But the amazing thing is it's in HD, guys. So if you're really into the HD thing, this is a huge leap.
Practically speaking, this is part of a scam, man, because I'm on my third 360 so far, and I try to play it as little as possible, not because I don't like it, but actually because I like it, because I'm tired of going through 360. So if I was to start having my console be on to watch movies, it would just die out again that much quicker. I mean, I think it's a scam from Microsoft. They want us all to burn through these 360s as quick as possible, and if Netflix is going to get, every 360 to its, DOA date that much quicker, then that's what it's going to be. So we're all going to be streaming these HD movies, and we're going to be buying new 360s every 6 months.
Well, I'm one of the guys that luckily I've only had to go through 2 360s, and I'm pretty confident it ain't going to burn out on me, so I'm okay with that.
Well, knock on wood, I'm still on my original.
Wow.
Yeah,
Lucky
and that's
man.
why I waited a year and a half to buy mine. The now, one of the things I noticed about the new Xbox experience is that there's ads for avatar-ready games, and one of these is a Kingdom for Keflings, and I think, Brad, you've been playing this a bit?
Yeah, that's true. There's a couple games. I think it's Uno and some other card game or something that I have no interest in ever playing. But A Kingdom for Keflings is by Ninja Bee, who have also done Cloning Clyde, which I thought was fantastic, and Band of Bugs, which was pretty good. But A Kingdom for Keflings is actually really cool, and it does actually incorporate the new avatar that anyone would create when going into the new Xbox experience. There are 4 preset characters, so if you don't want to use your avatar like I didn't want to, then you can just use one of the characters that comes stock. But anyway, the gist of the game is that you are a giant in a town of little people, and you want to help them. There's not a lot of backstory, so I'm not exactly sure why you want to help them instead of throwing them all into a giant stew pot and just making a giant villager pot pie or something.
Now that sounds like my kind of game. Cannibalism. Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
So you're just like a friendly giant, I guess, is the premise. So basically, it's like a resource management game. You have trees and rocks and crystals and sheep. So you've got these 4 basic resources, and you, the giant, go around and you pick up a little person, and you put them in front of what you want them to harvest, and then you pick them up again and put them in front of where you want them to take it, and then they're good. They just go and they go on their little route, and they collect stuff for you, and you build up your resources, and then you have these sets of blueprints, and so you build like a house, or there's like a coliseum, or there's like a nursery or something like that. And really, that's basically all you do. There's no enemies. There's no natural disasters that strike, an earthquake and your town falls into the crust of the earth. There's no ravaging hordes from the nearby woods. No goblins come in to rape the women folk and kill the children or anything. So there's no conflict. There's no disaster, and nothing really bad happens. So I know a lot of people would think, well, what's the point? I mean, what fun is that? But I think actually it's really cool, and I think it's almost daring in a way, because it's really relaxing to kind of just gather these resources. Nothing's going to happen, and you just you go about at your own pace, and you kind of zone out a little bit. It's got like a little John Denver kind of guitar soundtrack in the background, so it kind of mellows you out. And it's really cool. I really got into it, and I found myself wasting 2 and 3 hours on one of those, I'm going to build just one more thing. And then I would build that thing, and okay, just one more thing. And whenever I get into the one more thing zone, that to me is a really good sign. So it didn't do anything for me in terms of using my avatar, but in terms of game design, I really liked it a lot. I thought it was something different, and I can see a lot of people who don't want to shoot things might find it worth a look too. I mean, games where you kill or be killed are a dime a dozen, but something as positive and non-penalizing like this are pretty rare. So thumbs up from me.
Sounds like it might have a similar vibe to Animal Crossing. Would that be a reasonable comparison?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it doesn't have the social aspect, and you definitely are in control of everything. I mean, you are the driving force behind the town. So it's not like anything happens when you're gone, and you don't really talk to anybody, but it is similar in the sense that you're not ever afraid that your character is going to get killed, or you're not ever afraid that you're going to lose everything you've taken the time to build up. I mean, it only is positive. I mean, even the resources you gather can't be infinitely reharvested. You just disassemble the buildings you have, and all the resources are still there, so you don't even lose anything at all. So
it kind of sounds like the black and white without the black and white. There's no evil, there's no good.
I've heard a lot of people make that comparison, but I've never played black and white, so I couldn't say. But I've heard quite a few people say it is very similar to that, minus all the, whatever danger elements there were in black and white. So.
Well, thanks very much, Brad. That'll do it for Quick Hits. We'll take a break, and when we come back, listener Q&A after 30 seconds of random video game music. Longtime listeners know at the end of every podcast, we tell you, and I believe this is an exact quote, that we crave your feedback. And you haven't been shy. The questions and comments and suggestions have been flooding in for weeks now, thousands upon thousands of them. And in the true spirit of Thanksgiving, we're going to answer as many questions as we can for the rest of this show, just as the Pilgrims intended. So, to ensure that we get to as many questions as we can, we're going to do this PTI style, pardon the interruption, on the ESPN. I'm going to impose a hard 5-minute limit on all of your responses. And should the discussion go over 5 minutes, you will hear this sound. At which point, whoever is speaking will be kicked off the podcast. Well, at the very least, you'll have the last word. But that's how it'll go. And we've never done anything like this on the show before. I'm very excited to see how it turns out. Gentlemen, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, the energy. All right, here we go. Here's question number 1, and again, these are all questions from our listeners. Why do critics compete to give a game the highest possible score?
I'll take the lead on this one. I think there's 3 possible answers that kind of sum up everything. The first is advertising dollars. No one wants to piss off the person who's paying the bill for their ad revenue. Second thing, it's really cool to ride the wave of hype for every hot upcoming game, and everybody wants to be associated with it. Rational thinking doesn't set in until at least 2 or 3 weeks after the game hits. And the third thing is that I think a lot of writers don't have very much integrity. They're afraid to actually say what's bad with the game. No one wants to point out any negatives, and nobody wants to seem like a hater. So I think any possible overinflated score could be attributed to one of those 3 things.
And what I'll add to that is I don't think there's so much trying to compete for the highest score as they don't really want to stand out really, and that it sounds a little bit strange, but I wouldn't have believed it myself if I didn't hear it from the PAX conference where they had a little panel on game criticism, and the woman editor there pretty much said that she was afraid that if she gave us a game too low a score, she'd be thought of as sort of the crazy person, which is sort of like our role, I guess, at Game Critics, because that's what happens to us. But to me, it's really packed journalism where they just want to all jump on the same bandwagon, and they don't want to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I agree with that, Chi. It's actually a really interesting point you raise about what you heard at PAX about people not wanting to stand out, because as someone who's written a negative review of a popular game and then seeing the thousands of angry, semi-coherent letters from Nintendo fanboys, I can understand not wanting to go through that. But the other thing I think is that a lot of these guys are working with really severe deadlines and are trying to cram 20-hour games into 5-hour play sessions and then have to write a review of it. So you're never really getting an opportunity to play the whole thing and then think about it afterwards and let it gestate and come to a conclusion of how you really feel about it, because with the internet and all this stuff, everybody wants everything immediately. They want the review the day the game comes out, and you're playing a portion of the game, so you're probably cutting it a lot of slack because you haven't played the whole thing, so you don't want to trash it in case it might get better. So
exactly. When you're doing a truncated play session, it's better to go high than low, because no one's going to call you out for being too positive on something, but people will definitely call you out for being too negative.
And that's why I ignore scores completely. Well, gentlemen, we did that in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Very impressive. Yeah,
Wow.
It's great.
we are more fast.
I was afraid at the time that we were all going over already.
No.
I can do other things in 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
It's well practiced. Okay. Question 2. Are we ready?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Question 2. How has the Wii changed the landscape for gamers?
And I'll take the lead on this one, guys. I think the Wii has expanded the video game market, and we're seeing a lot more diversity of games, targeted at broader audiences and sort of alternative niche audiences, like what we're seeing with like the Cooking Mama series. I mean, when you look at what's on sale, some of what the top sellers on Amazon, you're seeing like these personal trainer things and these cooking guides and yoga guides. I mean, yeah, these aren't games that we as hardcore gamers would be playing, but I think sort of looking at when you look at the Japanese manga industry, how they have all these titles and how there's all this diversity, and that in turn leads to sort of a mainstream popularity. I think that's a good thing, So we all sort of feared at one point, or at least the hardcore gamers feared, that the Wii would take away resources from some of the games that we like. But when you look at how BioShock and Fallout 3 have sold really well, I think that fear has been unwarranted, and I think it's just a great time to be a gamer. We're seeing all kinds of games that we haven't seen before, so to me, it's a good thing.
Well, I think it kind of depends on how you look at the question. If the question is how has the Wii changed the landscape for gamers, well, I'm a gamer and it hasn't changed the landscape for me at all. I see that there's a lot more crap on the shelves because there's a lot of Wii shovelware out there. I see that there's a lot of games that shove motion technology into places where it's totally not meant to go. Other than that, I don't really see that, for me as a gamer, it has changed anything. I mean, I would agree that it has perhaps broadened, the array of people who might be inclined to try a game, but I don't know if you really want to call those people gamers. I mean, I don't want to start a whole core versus casual debate, but, I know a lot of people personally who have bought Wiis who were not gamers before the Wii, so it's great that they bought that, but at the same time, they're picking up Wii Sports, they're not buying anything else, and they only bring it out, when everybody's drinking. So I don't know if that really counts as broadening the market for games. But if you're talking about gamers, people who were playing games before, I don't think it's done much for us at all.
I was just going to jump in and be annoyed that Brad stole my line, because I was going to say the Wii has changed the landscape for gamers by exponentially increasing the amount of shovelware on my GameStop shelves. But aside from that, I'm with him. I think that the landscape for gamers hasn't changed so much. It's brought more people into the fold who wouldn't have played games originally, but a lot of those people aren't probably gamers. They get their Wii Sports and they might pick up Guitar Hero, but they don't even buy the core Nintendo products. They don't buy the Marios or the Metroids or Zelda or any of that. So I don't know. I'm not anti-Wii. I'm just very bored with it in general. I have one. It sits on my shelf. I don't play it a lot because there just aren't a lot of games on it that appeal to me, and every time I go into the store, you're confronted by an entire wall of games that I've never heard of. I mean, they're so low budget and lame that they're not even advertising them. They just put out this stuff, and I guess somebody buys them. It's like the terrible Christmas morning where you get the game that nobody wants to play. I think that happens to a lot of kids with Wii's. But, it's a great idea. It's the same thing. The DS is a great idea. I think the DS has been more successful in changing the landscape for gamers than the Wii. But, again, I'm with Brad. I mean, it's great stuff in theory, but I'm not even convinced that Nintendo entirely knows how to capitalize on its potential.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the DS. It's hard to have a conversation about the Wii without the DS because they sort of go almost hand in hand. But I want to ask you guys. I mean, don't you think though? I mean, there is a lot of the shovelware, the carnival games and the mini game fests and all that stuff. But at the same time, we see some bits of innovation with the, Cooking Mama and what's the surgeon game?
Trauma
Center, and stuff like that. I mean, don't you think that's a part of that movement though at all? Do you don't see it that way or not?
No, I think any of those things, possibly not Trauma Center, but I think Trauma Center is probably the best ever implementation of motion controls out of everything that the Wii has. So it's kind of the exception to the rule. But I think any of those things could have been done on another system. I very rarely see anything that I think is so core to the Wii's identity that it could not have been done anywhere else. I just don't see it.
No, I don't disagree that it's not the Wiimote per se, the mechanics, but
no.
I got dinged.
Oh, I was worried we weren't going to get to hear that sound effect, but yeah. Chi, go ahead and finish your thought, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Sure, I was just going to say that the mechanics are part of it, but I think it has overall more to do with the philosophy of the way the system's positioned, that why these games are showing up is all. That's my point.
Disagree. Right. Moving on.
The gloves are off.
Brad gets the last word. All right. Question number 3. Oh, this is a good one. Why are video games still regarded as children's games when gamers have gotten older and games more sophisticated?
because there is an entire generation of baby boomers who didn't grow up with video games, who only saw video games come into existence when they were already in their early 30s or, late 20s and missed the boat on them. And they bought them for their kids, but they didn't really understand them. And the rest of us have played since we were children and found out that, these aren't just kid things in the same way that people look at cartoons as all being for kids. So it's just one of those things where I think the paradigm is already shifting as the group of us who are gamers who are now, 55% of us are married and 40% of us have kids and all this stuff. And as we continue to get older and this older generation starts to die off, which sounds terrible to say, you're going to see that. You're going to see that switch. You're going to see gamers who are presidents and heads of companies outside of gaming and things like that. But it happens like every generation has something. It seems like that the older generations just don't get that the young people do. And I think for our generation, Gen X, Gen Y, whatever they're calling us, it's video games. So that's my thought on it.
So is it just a matter of waiting for these people to die off, or is there anything do we even need to be doing anything to get them to accept gaming, or are we fine just waiting it out?
I don't think they're going to ever accept it. I think like Mike said, they need to just, not to wish ill on anyone, but they're just going to die. And then, that's how people eventually, accepted rock and roll. Everybody who didn't like it is dead. So, same thing with games. Everybody who doesn't like games is going to be dead in another 20, 30 years or something. And then, already today, when I go out, people don't even look at me funny anymore when I say that I play games. People think it's cool. So I think we're already moving past, that whole nerd and introvert stigma that games used to carry. What do you guys think?
I think within any generation, you're still going to have, segments that are not into it, and they're still going to be ignorant about it, and and that first reaction is just going to look at games as what games, are primarily thought of as, playthings, So that's, I don't know if that's ever going to go away, but to address
but those people are lame, though. You don't want to talk to those people anyway.
Yeah.
There's always going to be jerks. You can't get rid of jerks, so.
No, I hear.
Anybody who's not a jerk likes games, so that's pretty simple.
And just to add to address what Tim was asking, and I think that's part of what we try to do at Game Critics. We try to add a little more to the thinking to this area to hopefully encourage some people that are a little bit on the fence and try to get them over to our side a little bit more.
All right. So I guess
we tell them that they're jerks.
I don't honestly. I don't see why. I guess it's just our culture so obsessed with labeling things. What does it matter if it's a kid thing or not? I don't understand why these polls constantly pop up or why everybody pays them such credence, because life is short. If you like something, do it. If it does, especially if it's something as harmless as gaming, where it doesn't hurt anybody and it's not illegal and it's not going to shorten your lifespan or anything like that. I just think sometimes as gamers we get so hung up on how everybody else sees our hobby, and I just don't see the point in it.
So I guess to summarize, we don't like jerks, and we really don't care for senior citizens. All right, fair enough.
There we go.
Baby
Moving on.
Must go.
Moving on to question number 4. Can a bad game be good, either in the sense that its development resulted in positives for gaming as a whole, or in the sense that its fundamental badness was a quality unto itself?
See, to me, games that are like that, I don't consider them to be bad games. When a game innovates in some kind of way, that's usually a good thing in my book, and I'm able to overlook a lot of the flaws. Some games that come to mind, was like we talked about Winback a couple of shows ago. Shenmue was a horribly flawed game, but yet it brought a lot to the table. And I personally was a big fan of Seaman on the Dreamcast, even though that was probably one of the nails in the coffin for that system.
Now we know why he likes so many Wii games.
Right. But ultimately, I think we have to recognize that not every game is going to be flawless. We should appreciate more that the innovation happens in baby steps, and like I said, I don't consider these things to be overall bad, and I think you need that for progress.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the first thing I'd like to call out is it really depends on who's calling a game bad. There are lots of games I can think of that have gotten a bad rap in the mainstream reviews or just with gamers in general, but when you really take the time to look at them and examine them, most often than not, they're really bringing something new to the table, and while they may not do it without making some missteps along the way, just like Chi said, you don't really advance games at all without really trying these new concepts. I mean, for example, Way of the Samurai was a game that didn't really get the best reviews. A lot of people hate it, and to be honest, I don't really like it that much either, but I definitely respected what it was trying to do in terms of having free-form storytelling. Shenmue is a great example. I think a lot of games actually very directly benefited from Shenmue's example. I mean, if nothing else, the QuickTime events have permeated the industry, and Shenmue is really what brought them back to the forefront. So I think that game is a masterpiece in some ways, even though it took a bad drubbing in the reviews. And there's lots of other games too, like Disaster Report, or a lot of stuff that didn't really see a lot of circulation on the PS2, especially. You can't really get anywhere without trying things, and the games that sell the most and are the most popular don't usually try new things. Just like you said, the Winback show, Gears of War wouldn't be Gears of War if it wasn't for Winback and what's the other game that's just like Winback? Killswitch. Without those two games, neither of which made any headway with gamers whatsoever, neither of which sold more than 5 copies, Gears of War wouldn't be here if not for those two games. So it's you got to have your warts and all titles, and just you got to love them and you got to appreciate what they do. And that, to me, in itself, is enough reason to have them in the first place.
Yeah, I don't like to call Shenmue a bad game. I like to call it a misunderstood game. It's not a bad game. It certainly has its share of flaws, but I think when you look at it as a whole, it brought a lot of things to the table. It not only brought the QuickTime events that we see in so many games now, but it certainly was a title that brought the sandbox style of gameplay in terms of letting you do a lot of different things however you wanted to do them. It wasn't the innovator of that particular subgenre of gaming, but it certainly, set the tone for things that came later. And I don't know. Again, how do you call a game bad? I don't understand what our criteria of how we decide if a game is bad, because we just talked about how we don't trust reviewers because we think they're rush out to call games good. So it's just one of those weird things where you're sort of looking at a game and I think of them genuinely. It wasn't even so much a glib comment as misunderstood. I can't think of a game that I ever thought that was bad that actually did anything good for gaming, but I can think of a lot of games that maybe people didn't like or didn't quite get at the time, or were maybe ahead of their time even, that certainly did good things. And I think that Shenmue and Way of the Samurai are both good examples of that.
All right. Yeah, first, thank you, Brad, for bringing up Way of the Samurai. But I think you also hit it on the head when you said that, a lot of the gamers are just looking to the most popular title. And, yeah, most of those popular titles have learned from the mistakes of the predecessors and have gotten all their ducks in a row. But that's not like how every game should be. There's going to be missteps, but we can't just look at those AAA titles and think that's the best of everything.
Question number 5: do you prefer a game to do only one thing for its duration, like art style Orbiant, or that aim to do everything in small amounts? Mini games, characters, telling a story, different kinds of gameplay, humor, the kitchen sink. Something like Portal, says the question.
Well, first off, I think Portal was not really a great example for that, because Portal basically runs on one gameplay mechanic, which is making holes in things that you can travel through, and humor, yeah, it's funny, but it's also only like 5 hours long, so it's not the best example for that question, but that's just me being nitpicky, so I'm sorry.
No, I mean, he lists, he defines everything, the question asker, and again, I apologize to him, as mini, he uses mini games and humor in the same list, and those are two completely different things. Mini games are an activity, and humor is tone.
Yeah.
You can't really compare the two.
No. So, yeah, there's definitely a few things there I have to, just preclude from this answering this question. My example is lately, for all my life, I've played role-playing games. I've been an RPG nerd from the first Final Fantasy back on the Nintendo, and I've played, but my entire life I've played RPGs. And RPGs, for the longest time, revolved around the same basic principles. You had a party of characters, you go to a town and talk to NPCs, they send you to a dungeon, you kill things and get loot, and then come back and, get the next quest. And I'm okay with that. I don't need my RPG to do 75 different things, but lately I've found that a lot of the RPGs I'm playing want to cram all kinds of mini games into them and all kinds of these different things, and the game experience becomes so convoluted and complicated and just needlessly complex that it's not fun anymore. Like Tales of Vesperia, for example, that I recently played, you've got your game, you've got cooking, you've got all these skits to find, all this other stuff to do. I'm all in favor of games maybe merging one or two elements, taking the core RPG gameplay and adding like first-person shooter mechanics like Deus Ex did, or something like that. But I think that when you start trying to cram everything in to make a game that is everything to everyone, it just reeks of desperation to me. It's just too much stuff and you're overwhelming players.
Yeah, and
I would kind of take... go ahead, Tim.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think the longer the game is, the more resentful I become of all of the extra stuff, and I'll use BioShock as the example. The little pipe dream mini-game when you're unlocking safes and disarming turrets, that was a lot of fun for maybe the first couple hours, but then in the 20th hour of the game, I really had become quite annoyed by that and really just stopped trying to unlock safes and so forth just to avoid it. Yeah, I mean, I prefer the core experience, a game to do one thing really, really well, as opposed to the scattershot style of video.
Well, I kind of agree with both of you guys, and I kind of disagree with both of you. It really depends on what kind of game and how long the game is. In the example the person gave of art style Orient, that's a game where it's extremely focused. You only do one thing. And it works really well because it's really hyper-polished. But then again, the game is maybe 4 hours long. So it's really okay in that example. In games that are longer, I really don't mind having lots of different things. For example, San Andreas or even Saints Row 2 or whatever. Those are 20-ish hour-long games, possibly 40 if you want to do every single thing in the game. And there's tons of different activities, and they're not all done well, but I kind of like the ability to do different things. I don't necessarily want them all integrated into the main quest, but I think it's okay to have them as long as they don't get in the way, as long as they don't obstruct progress. I certainly don't want them if they're kind of really poorly done, but games like Fallout, I think there's a core mechanic, but then there's also a wide variety of things that you could do, or games like Mass Effect where you're kind of combining genres and different things are going on. I think those examples kind of work, and I think if I was to put myself on the scale of only one thing per game or everything per game, I think I would probably lean more towards everything per game. But again, it really depends on the length and the genre too.
All right, next question, question number 6. This comes from a hardcore World of Warcraft player. He writes, "Do you guys have the same problem as me with playing single-player games in that they feel terribly lonely? Ever since I became an MMO addict, and particularly since WoW, whenever I do a single-player game, I quickly start to feel lonely, very lonely, deserted even. It makes me feel like a hermit." Let me respond to this first. I kind of agree with this guy. I like to have a chat interface open on the screen. I like to be able to see what my friends are playing, coming on, coming off. I don't play my Wii as much because, frankly, I miss it. I absolutely miss that social aspect. But I do want to make the point that I don't actually like playing games with other people. I just like having them around. But if they invite me to something, chances are I'm going to either ignore them or refuse. I just am comforted by their presence.
See, I'm sort of the opposite because I play a lot of World of Warcraft and stuff like that. And the problem for me is that sometimes hell is other people. You go onto World of Warcraft and you run around and, like, this week is a great example because here we are a week and a half after the launch of an expansion, so everybody and their brother who has ever played World of Warcraft is back on the game, on our server. There's a queue to get in. Then you get in and everybody's running around the same couple of zones trying to do the same quests, and there's no common courtesy because you're anonymous online. Nobody knows who you are, so you don't have to be civil or polite or anything like that. And after a few hours of that every day, if somebody's stealing mobs for your quest or, not waiting their turn to do the quest, after, if you're already there or something like that, I still find myself longing to actually play single-player games on my Xbox with Xbox Live turned off so I don't have to interact with anybody. But that's just me. So.
Well, I hear you, Mike. I feel the same way. I don't really ever get lonely. I mean, I see people way too much in my daily existence. When I get on a game, I don't want to see anybody. I want people to leave me the hell alone. And in fact, I kind of had like a different problem as the person who wrote the question. I wasn't getting lonely, but my wife was actually getting kind of lonely. She would say that I would disappear for a while, and she'd wonder where I was, and, for her, she was getting lonely. So I think, we kind of found a happy medium where I moved my game into the other room, and I got a headset so I could hear the game, but then I would also be present in the same space. That works out a lot better, and now that she's got her own 360, she doesn't care what I do. But, yeah, I don't ever get lonely. I don't have enough alone time as it is, so maybe that's different if you're an MMO person. I'm totally not, and so I'm way okay being solo.
Yeah, my gaming habits are just really weird, and I don't think I can follow anyone's pattern, so I could never play an MMO, really.
Where do you play, in the bathroom?
No, I'm just really moody when it comes to what I want to jump onto. So I really don't follow like sort of the popular trends and things like that.
Mike, you should come over to my World of Warcraft server because we're the most cordial group of players, I think, in the entire game. We're always helping each other. We hug each other after we finish a quest. High fives. We buy each other flowers. It's fantastic.
That's awesome because the people I play with are bloody savages.
All right, well, let's go on to our last question, question number 7, and this is a short one, and it's Thanksgiving-themed. The author writes, what game are you most thankful for this holiday season? Well, I'm sure our listeners are sick of hearing me say Fallout 3 and World of Warcraft for my answers to every question, but those are the games I'm most thankful for, and probably all I'll be playing for the rest of the year.
For me, it's Fallout 3 as well.
I'm definitely sticking with Wrath of the Lich King. Despite my hatred of other people on my server, it's still the game I'm most thankful for.
As for me, I'll have to pick 2. Again, Fallout 3, just like everybody else, I think Fallout 3 is a pretty fantastic game. But along with it, World of Goo on WiiWare, I think one of those 2 games is going to be my game of the year, and I haven't really decided which one, so I'm thankful for both.
All right. Well, we only went over time on 2 questions, so I want to congratulate all of you on your, what's the word I'm looking for?
Scattershot.
On your concise arguments. We did a great job, and I hope people got a kick out of it. And please continue to send us questions. You can send those to podcast@gamecritics.com. Thoughts, feelings, suggestions for the show. We want to hear it all. You can also go to the website, gamecritics.com, sign up for the discussion forums, and join in the discussion there as well. Gentlemen, I want to wish you all the happiest Thanksgiving possible.
Same to you, Tim. Thanks very much.
You.
And enjoy your gravy. Don't forget your straw.
Happy
I do love
so
gravy.
Gross.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
It's not bad if you get the lumps out.
I've never been a gravy guy.
You just had the wrong gravy.
And, yep. And just so everybody knows, we are going to take a week off for the holiday. We will be back the week after Thanksgiving with more GameCritics.com podcast action and adventure for all of us. Have a great holiday, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.